be it. We could move on. Here's Brian Windhorst on a potential Paul George trade.
Well, let's remember that Paul George has three options. One is to re-sign with the Clippers. Two is to enter free agency and go somewhere else like Philly or Orlando. Three, he can opt into his contract and get traded by this weekend. That is something that is going to come to a head in the next day or two if he wants to go with that option, because obviously you'd have to negotiate a trade, and then the team wouldn't necessarily need salary cap space. So the Paul George sweepstakes is going to come to a head, at least that aspect of it, faster than those other players who are going to be free agents like Klay Thompson or DeMar DeRozan. So Paul George has a different menu of options, and we're going to see some action in that probably coming up, very quickly after the draft.
Where does that leave the Warriors?
Well, it feels like to me, we're going to find out in a couple of days here. If he opts in, he's probably on the move, and they're going to have to make some sort of a move. And it feels like if that's the case, and he gives, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to say, I will only play in, Philly. I'll only play in New York. I'll only play in Golden State. But if there are bidders in this, then now we have to have a cost analysis conversation. Like, what does it cost the Warriors to go get Paul George? Will they deplete whatever little assets they have to go get him? And then now, okay, I have Paul George, but can I round out the rest of my team?
The whole Paul George thing, we're talking about 34 years old, and you're probably going to have to give him a new contract, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about paying. And I get Klay Thompson is not the player that Paul George is right now. He's not. We could all admit that he's not. It's okay to admit it. But you want to pay Paul George, who's 34 years old, has had a litany of injuries, and he's looking for 4 years. That's known. We don't know what Klay exactly is looking for. We think we know. We know what Paul George is looking for. He wants a deal like Kawhi's. So going to trade for Paul George is going to make this team better just right away?
No, Bonte, I think it's called process of elimination. So you're trying to do something to make you incrementally better, knowing that has tremendous risk on either end of it. And it's the less damaging of a bunch of crummy options. That's kind of where they're at.
So I just want to get this straight. With all the picks the Warriors have coming up, in the future, they got a lot of first-round picks. This year, obviously, they don't. Paul George, bringing him in at 34 years old, and he hasn't been the most durable. Hell, Klay Thompson, I think, played more games than him last season, but Klay Thompson's not the player that Paul George is, and Paul George could be a good fit here. But boy, you really want to trade assets for Paul George?
Well, that's where I got to see what it is.
Yeah, what it may cost. And Getzheiler said, I got to pull it up.
If it's CP3 and Wiggins and Moody and a potential, couple of picks, I'd probably do that.
Well, I want to hear what Getzheiler says about Paul George's market.
There's a couple really interesting names that are being bandied about right now. Paul George is one of them, because if he opts into the $48 million in his deal, that's going to be much easier for him to go to a team he wants to go to, with the Clippers' willingness to trade him. And for the Clippers, they're going to want to get something back for him if they're going to lose him. And I don't think they're going to come to an agreement in a deal. I feel like what Paul George wants, and I don't think it's about annual money. I think it's about years. The amount of years that Paul George wants is going to be 4 years, and I don't think the Clippers want to be paying him at 38 at this point. They're going to have to make a finale. They're in the process of negotiating with James Harden right now. I think, again, it's going to be the issue is going to be years than money with him as well.
So years is going to be the issue with PG. So he's 34 years old, turns 35 in August. So you give him he wants years. We're talking about signing him up until he's 38 years old. And like the Giants, who have a different cast of characters in 24 than they have in 2023, the bottom line is the same, right? They're losing games, they're under 500, they're not watchable. It's the same blah, blah, blah story we've been talking about for 3 years. They trade for Paul George, and it sounds like the Clippers aren't just going to say, yeah, just give us Chris Paul in that slot and hoodwink, Andrew Wiggins. No. They're going to want a lot more, I believe. Getzheiler said it. That's just conversation I've heard. So what are we willing to give for Paul George? And does he make the Warriors that much better? That's the thing that we don't want to say. Paul George sounds good, but does he make the Warriors that much better to where they're competing at a high level in the Western Conference?
Well, I think to me, this singular move isn't one of those like, tipping the scales type of a move. It's about like, hey, I have dead weight. CP3, I'm literally losing him for nothing if I can't work out a trade. So that's an asset that just evaporates if it doesn't become. So literally you get nothing for CP3 if you just waive him, right? And you don't guarantee his contract. Wiggins, you basically got nothing from the last couple of years. So those are just two assets. Now, the question is Kuminga. Right? That's what we're talking about. Am I adding Kuminga? I'm extremely reluctant to add Kuminga. I'm not willing to add Kuminga to that deal. Now, a future first rounder, yeah, because I'm thinking I'll be somewhere in the middle of the pack, 14, 15, 16. So it's not that big of a difference maker, And seeing how young players have played with this team in the last couple of years, it's tough to envision a guy coming in and being a humongous difference maker.
Let's just look at the Clippers situation and look at their roster. Why would they be interested in Andrew Wiggins?
Because they're going to lose Paul George, and I look at what Philly is going to be offering, and I don't think that they can offer a $25 million player like Wiggins, who you maybe can shine up for a couple of months and move again. I don't know. I'm looking at the New York Knicks. Right. What are the Knicks going to be giving up? Julius Randle? Is he that? Right. Is he that desirable? Is he that much different than Andrew Wiggins?
I don't think Andrew Wiggins fits with the Clippers. He's an isolation player. You already have Kawhi Leonard, who's an ISO player. You already have. They're going to work out a deal with James Harden. We'll see about that market. He's an isolation player. Terrence Mann is in the corner. You still have Bones Highland on that roster. I'm just trying to look at it from the other side. Yeah, I know,
but like the Warriors did this with the D'Angelo Russell deal. They talked themselves into it, right? We'll just take whatever. We'll talk ourselves into it. It won't work out here, and then we flip them at the deadline.
Well, they had to for that slot. They had to. I don't know if the Clippers want to take on that burden of saying, all right, we're trading for Andrew Wiggins. We got something. And then let's go flip them for something else. Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know.
But they're in a hard cap situation as well as the Warriors, where once you hit 171, which is like the second apron, you lose slots if guys just so if Paul George just opts out and leaves, they lose the slot completely, and they can't improve their team other than veteran minimum signings. So it's just. The second apron is everything. I feel like we have to get like a finance class just for the NBA in the modern day because of how everyone in the league, and I would go to the specific deal of the Malik Monk deal. The fact he got a 4-year, under $20 million deal was shocking to everyone in the league, and it goes to tell you everyone else out there who would normally be bidding for the services of someone like a Malik Monk. If this was 2 years ago, I think he gets a crazy deal. 5 years, 25, 30 million. He would have got something bigger than what he got.
The fact that he
didn't at 26 years old tells me the market's dried up and teams don't have that middle money to go and spend. So a team like the Clippers, who's hard capped, taking on an Andrew Wiggins gives them at least the option of keeping Wiggins. It's not great, but keeping Wiggins or flipping Wiggins again at the deadline for something else or cap relief.
Brett Siegel is going to join us at 8:30. I'm very fascinated for Warrior fans. 888-957-9570. Do you want Dunleavy and the Warriors to swing big at a guy like Paul George? Is that what you want? Is that what you want? You just want to see the Warriors swing big at a guy like Paul George?
I just think for 2 years, because I'm not worried about the 5th year and all that. I just think I'm just trying to line up the best team I can to win this year and the year after with Steph Curry. That's kind of where I'm at. You got to just take it year to year. And then if you have to bail and hit the eject button down the line, then you bail and hit the eject button. But I would do everything I can to try to just change some stuff up, see where you're at. You look at Dallas, I didn't think they were a world beater. They were better than the Warriors last year. They were the 5th seed. They got hot at the right time. They went on a nice little run. No one is saying that's exactly what the Warriors can do, but I could see where there's a path like, hey, Draymond, Paul George, Steph, and we tinker the rest of the roster, and we see where it goes.
So they need change. 888-957-9570. Are you with Shasky? You just want to see him swing big and make a change. And is Paul George that big swing? Is Paul George, forget my opinion, is Paul George that guy to help take the Warriors back to the promised land in the playoffs? We're talking about a play-in team. What did Clippers get smoked in 5 or 6 by the Mavericks? 6? Paul George in that series shot 36% from the three-point line. 41% overall from the floor, 19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Is that the second star that the Warriors need?
He would be their, if with Clay leaving, he would be your right now clear-cut number 2 scorer. I think he could play a lot with your second unit because he can facilitate some. He can close. He can switch out on the perimeter. No, he's not as young as Andrew Wiggins, but, throttling up and down throughout the regular season to save him for the playoffs. Again, this is not like I would rather have Giannis or someone, Embiid or something like that. But given the options, it's the lesser of many evils.
I can't believe Warrior fans have come.
We're talking ourselves into it. We're desperate.
Yeah, no, I understand.
We're
that.
desperate.
Because for 5 years I heard Paul George wasn't nothing, and now we want Paul George. Here's Ramona Shelburne, Willard or Dibs. Warriors will be very active.
The Warriors are being very aggressive, from what I'm told, around the league and trying to upgrade the roster around Steph Curry, around Draymond Green.
Yep.
Jonathan Kuminga is virtually untouchable right now, but name a free agent out there, name a trade target, the Warriors have inquired. They're being very aggressive, trying to build another championship contender. Because if you're going to spend as much money as they're spending, you better not end up in the play-in tournament.
You said this. They're going to be the most expensive. They were the most expensive play-in tournament team we'd ever seen. And that's not exactly.
No, that is not acceptable. And so I think they will come back to Klay Thompson at some point, but they have 5 other things going on right now. And whether or not they come back to him before he finds another home, well, it remains to be seen.
That's Ramona Shelburne on NBA Live. She also said the Warriors are going to be active on every player in the league.
Name a free agent, name a trade target. They have made calls on them, okay? They are being very, very aggressive, okay? Like, most of the Kevin Durant, calling Kevin Durant. Lauri Markkanen, calling Lauri Markkanen. Paul George, calling Paul George. Name somebody out there. They are being very aggressive. Now, can they actually turn anybody? Can they actually bring any of those guys in? I don't know. They tried to get Alex Caruso. He ended up going to Oklahoma City.
I mean, they're in a desperate mode. There's no other way around it. They're in the desperation mode right now, and all of the guys that they're going to be linked to are going to have flaws. It's just, no one's trading you, SGA. No one's trading you Anthony Edwards.
I have a hard time paying trading assets, major assets, and ain't giving a new deal to a guy in his mid-30s.
Okay, so then
I'm sorry.
So you're just going to stand pat?
No, I never said stand pat. I never said that. You may have to look at lesser options, or like I said yesterday, and nobody's going to want to hear this. And I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm the ultimate Super Bowl robust, win at all costs type of sports fan. That's who I am. But in this situation, looking at where the books are at, looking at the picks, and then looking ahead to what's going to be happening in the 2025 draft, which is a lot better than this upcoming draft, which starts tomorrow, maybe the best situation for the Golden State Warriors is to reload for that season. And how do you reload for that season? It's almost like a 2019 situation. Not as bad, not as dire, but basically midway through that year, they traded for Andrew Wiggins, saying, okay, he could be a better fit than D'Lo. We get the extra pick, which turns into Jonathan Kuminga in a couple years, which turned into Jonathan Kuminga, I should say. And then you were ready to roll. You win a championship in 2022, and you're competitive the next season and lose in the second round to the Lakers. The best option for the Warriors, because look, Paul George is a very good player, very good player. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame one day because everybody goes to the Hall of Fame in the NBA.